I wrote an article about Amit Shah. That was my first taste with censorship. It was 2013-2014 when he was made the president, and I called it a new low for India. Within 4 hours, that story was taken down. I have reported on Mr. Modi from Gujarat, and have seen how journalists in Gujarat were silenced. And when that man assumes power in center, it's not like he's going to leave his old ways behind. The media has always been his enemy. Now you see an attack on the judiciary. The government now wants its own in the collegium. If the judiciary is taken over, then there's nothing worth fighting for in this country.
Nowadays, we are actually seeing a lot of Hindu-Muslim debate on, at least on the mainstream media. Do you really feel that religion is a fundamental issue in this debate, or is this also part of just the propaganda or an eyewash?
They said Manmohan Singh was a silent prime minister. At least he addressed the questions of the media on the 2G scam, on the Colgate. At least heads rolled, ministers resigned. People are trying to wipe off everything, cover everything with the national flag. And that's what most dictators and fascists do globally. They cover their crimes with the national flag. Patriotism is the last refuge of all scoundrels.
BBC-യുടെ ഇന്ത്യ ദ മോദി ക്വസ്റ്റ് ഡോക്യുമെൻ്ററി പുറത്തു വന്നതിന് പിന്നാലെ മാധ്യമ സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യത്തെക്കുറിച്ചാണ് ഈ രാജ്യത്ത് ഏറ്റവുമധികം ചർച്ചകൾ നടക്കുന്നത്. 2002 ഗുജറാത്ത് കലാപത്തിൻ്റെതടക്കം നിരവധി അന്വേഷണാത്മക റിപ്പോർട്ടുകൾ പുറത്തു കൊണ്ടുവന്ന മുതിർന്ന മാധ്യമപ്രവർത്തകയും വാഷിംഗ്ടൺ പോസ്റ്റിൻ്റെ ഒപ്പീനിയൻ കോളമിസ്റ്റുമായ റാണ അയ്യൂബാണ് ഇന്ന് നമ്മോടൊപ്പമുള്ളത്. മാം, ഫസ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ഓൾ, താങ്ക് യു സോ മച്ച് ഫോർ സ്പീക്കിംഗ് ടു ദ ഫോർത്ത്. ബീങ് എ വെരി സീനിയർ ജേർണലിസ്റ്റ് ആൻഡ് എ സ്ട്രോങ് ക്രിട്ടിക് of the Modi and the ruling BJP government, how do you see your life has changed after 2014?
I'm glad you asked that question because a lot of people do not remember my reportage before 2014, which was questioning truth to power. Whether it was reporting on the other scam or the scams of the Manmohan Singh government, each one of us was speaking truth to power. What has changed from 2014-2022 is the media landscape by and large, when most of us find ourselves that one of the best, and not just me, some of the best journalists in India are now independent journalists. They are not affiliated with any news organization because big media houses do not show the stories that journalism needs. So I think there is a big shift in how media operates since 2014, and that I think has been I wrote an article in 2013 for DNA, which is a publication. I wrote an article about Amit Shah. That was my first taste with censorship. It was 2013-2014 when he was made the president, and I called it a new low for India. Within 4 hours, that story was taken down. That was for me a precursor, and it gave me an idea on how the Modi years will be. And I was proved right when Mr. Modi gave an interview to ANI, if you don't remember, in 2014, when he was campaigning for a general election, and he was asked about journalists, and his response was he does not entertain news traders. So his response vis-a-vis journalism has always been like people who criticize them are either news traders or people who are doing a hit job on him. So I knew from then and there that this is going to be very tough for us. I wrote an article in the Huffington Post in 2014 about how the media landscape is going to get tougher from there. A lot of my well-meaning friends said, I think you're exaggerating. And I'm like, okay, I mean, the next couple of years you will know yourself. People said there's no such thing as censorship. I was like, okay, I mean, I'm witnessing, you might not see it, but I have seen a pattern because I have reported on Mr. Modi from Gujarat, and I have seen how journalists in Gujarat were silenced. And when that man assumes power in center, it's not like he's going to leave his old ways behind. The media has always been his enemy. We have seen the Karan Thapar interview in which he walks out of the interview, right? Thanks to the BBC documentary, one got to see 2 other interviews that he has given where he has looked them in the eye and said it's a propaganda. He has an attitude towards the press, and now that he's become the Prime Minister, and of course all of us here know, it's been 8 years, he has not taken a single press conference. And it's the world's largest democracy, and we are hosting G20 as the mother of democracy. So that's how my world has changed, and that's how every journalist's life has changed in India.
How different, in your perspective, is Indian media before 2014 and after 2014? Talking about the last UPA era, the Manmohan era, and the first Modi era.
See, am I saying that the Manmohan Singh government or the previous governments before that had put out the red carpet for journalists? No government has ever done that. Let's be very clear. Whether the Congress or the left or any political party for that matter, the journalists are the enemy of the state. Let's face it, every journalist has had a price to pay for the reportage. in the Modi regime 2014 onwards, there's a brazenness. They do it to kind of make a big song and dance about it. When a case was filed against me for 3 full days, mainstream media played it in debates. There was media outside my house. We have been, the media which is critical of Mr. Modi has been made an enemy of the state, which wasn't there earlier. In the previous regimes, they were vindictive. Journalists were being killed, journalists were being silent, journalists were being censored. But this level of brazenness, this level of in your face, we are going to fix you, did not exist. Which is precisely why in the World Press Freedom Index, India has slipped to 150th position. Never before seen. I mean, for whatever it's worth, they said Manmohan Singh was a silent prime minister. At least he addressed the questions of the media on the 2G scam, on the Colgate. At least heads rolled, ministers resigned. Do we have a single, through the peak of COVID, right, when people were dying, did the Prime Minister think it necessary to address the questions of the media? Are we not decent enough? I mean, we have to ask this question ourselves. Are we not good enough journalists that the Prime Minister does not think it's necessary to address our questions? Who are the people who get to question him before the elections? And Akshay Kumar who says, sir, aap aam kaat ke khate hain ki choose ke khate hain? Ye kya public interest hai ye? I also need to know what is the public interest behind Akshay Kumar doing an interview. So I believe that there is a brazenness that we are seeing, and the second most important thing is the state capture of the media by big business houses. Adanis have captured what is happening in NDTV. The other big business houses have captured the other news channels, our mainstream media. I was giving an example today that I read a Times of India headline. It said, Modi government lashes out against documentary, against BBC documentary against India. It is the government's contention it is against media. Why is your headline saying that? You could have said critical of Mr. Modi. You could have said critical of the government. How does an attack on Modi become an attack on India? Since when has the Indian media started using that language in the headline? Then I was writing a story on the Adani, so I went back in the last 2 weeks to see what was the Adani reportage like. So Times now says, big revelations by Gautam Adani. He plays Rummy Paplu with his wife every night. I was shocked. I was shocked that the same media who was saying Gautam Bhai, 2 weeks ago on a television channel does not have a single critical question about him. If this was the Congress regime, or the same media, if there was any other big business house that had done this, would the media have the same response in that day? You see, and I see parallels. I see what's happening in Russia, with the way the oligarchy supported Putin, right? And it's a mutual relationship. That's exactly what's happening here. It has become this. I mean, with BBC documentary, questioning Modi is questioning India. With Adani's, questioning Adani is questioning Modi, by extent, questioning India. When did that happen? So I think the media needs to take a deep, hard look. We are responsible for that mess.
Perhaps talking about that documentary, I could see in one of the portions where Modi was saying, when questioned about what he did wrong, the only thing that he actually agreed that he did wrong was to manage the media. Do you actually think in some way or the other he is doing it right now?
Yeah, Mr. Modi has done course correction. In that interview with BBC, he said the only thing I didn't do right was manage the media. The media has been managed. We are sitting here on a day when Hindenburg has released a report on the Adani group, right? Time magazine headline says Hindenburg claims that it is the largest con in the history of market manipulation. Financial Times, Business Standard, some of the biggest financial publications are reporting. And then I see Indian media. I was at the airport yesterday coming here. Tukde gang outside JNU. Desh ke Gaddar outside Jamia. That's the new mainstream media. In an ideal world today, the media should have been outside Mr. Adani's house, asking him the tough questions. In an ideal world, I saw Mr. Adani's spokesperson with a national flag, and that's when I realized there's a problem here. People are trying to wipe off everything, cover everything with the national flag. And that's what most dictators and fascists do globally. They cover their crimes with the national flag. Patriotism is the last refuge of all scoundrels. And not probably in this, I mean, I'm sure the truth will come out, but I feel like the bare minimum that the mainstream media could do is to report it in all honesty. At the airports, you see the media talking about the Hindu-Muslim issue. That's the perpetual issue. Muslims have done this. Muslims have done this jihad. Muslims have done love jihad. Muslims are doing temple jihad. There's no jihad. I mean, we are in Kerala where the entire story of love jihad actually started, right? So about the Babas and the Tantrics. These are the people who dominate news headlines, the magical powers of Babas. I really look at this and it shames me as a journalist that I'm a part of the same fraternity. But then I see the younger journalists who are literally trying their best, who have formed independent news outlets to speak truth to power, and that's very heartening. But as far as the BBC documentary is concerned, I feel like we say that there needs to be memory in the age of amnesia. When people are forgetting, you need somebody to remind you about what happened in the past. I think the BBC documentary has just done that.
And talking about manipulating the media, at least in the Indian media, we have a Mohammed Zubair, we have a Siddiq Kapan, we have a Rana Ayyub, and we have many other, if I can actually name the entire list. Do you think these names are somehow inflicting a sense of fear in the mainstream media that if we go their path, we will also be met with such consequences?
See, I'll give an example. When Shah Rukh Khan's son was arrested last year, and I wrote a big piece about a Muslim superstar's son has been arrested, and a lot of people said, why are you trying to say this? I said, he's not just Shah Rukh Khan's son. The government wanted to send a loud and clear message. You oppose us, you say something against us, this is how we're going to fix you. When Amir Khan said I spoke about intolerance, right? When everybody spoke about what's happening, people started. You had Adityanath saying Shah Rukh Khan is like Hafiz Saeed, right? This is what you see. This is why they go after the big names. In India, Zubair was arrested for a tweet, right? When they go after somebody like me, probably I'm a Muslim, I'm a woman, I enjoy a public profile, so to say. Unfortunately, fortunately, it's like if we can fix her, you don't even think what we can do to you, right? It's the messaging is loud and clear, but the story is not me. The story is those young journalists, especially, and I keep repeating this. The story is about journalists in Kashmir. The story is about somebody like Siddiq Kapan. The story is about somebody like Rupesh Kumar Singh. The story is about Fahad Shah in Kashmir. It's been almost 100 days since Fahad Shah is behind bars. For what? Public Safety Act? For what? For reporting the truth? Why is Sana Mattu, who was going to receive her Pulitzer? What message are you trying to send the country that if we can stop a journalism receiving a Pulitzer, who are you? What is a Pulitzer? It's one of the highest journalism awards. If we can stop her, then who are you? That's the messaging. With Zubair, the government, let's face it, the reason why the government came after him was because of the entire profit row, the speech of Nupur Sharma. So it was trying to tell the constituency that, listen, we fixed him. We fixed him. The single message of this government when it goes attacks a journalist is, we can fix them. And that's what Mr. Modi said, I will manage them. What he meant was, I will fix them, and he has fixed us.
I heard you saying every other day you are getting a brown envelope. And how many cases are there in total, maybe against you, and in how many states? Can you just give a brief, description about that?
Before I was coming to Kerala, I had to appear in Bombay for a court summon for an article I wrote in Tehelka in 2009 on the Sanatan Sanstha, a Hindu right-wing organization. The complaint on the basis of which the court has sent me a summons says that accused number 2, which is me, is a practicing Muslim, hence prejudiced. And I was telling my lawyer, I said, how do I address this in court? Like, I'm not changing my religion anytime, right? But that's how it is. So that's one case which I suddenly had to come back because I had to appear in court. I just got bail in that case, and I was like, I don't even remember what I wrote in the article. It was 2009, so I'm going back to reading it. Then there's a FIR registered against me in Karnataka for my BBC interview, which has accused me of stoking communal tension. There's an FIR against me in which Zubair is also a co-accused. It's about a tweet that we wrote about a Muslim man who was being accused, who was being attacked by a mob. There is a complaint against me in Kashmir about one of my reportage in the Washington Post. There's a complaint against me by tax, ED. I mean, name the agency, they're here. I mean, 2014, people are saying, look at Rana. Where is media censorship? She released Gujarat files, and why has the government put her behind bars? The thing is, sometimes you don't have to put people behind bars. Sometimes while they're free, you cut them with 1,000 cuts. You drown them in paperwork. You do media trials against them. You have social media campaigns against them. If my case were to be dealt in a free and fair court, it would be thrown out in the first day. I showed my case to somebody who's one of the highest, one of our former judges, and he was laughing at it. But does the media? No, because media will report what the ED says, right? So these are the multiple cases. I mean, and these are meant to drown you. I look at Maria Ressa in Philippines, who got the Nobel Peace Prize. If you see Maria Ressa's case, the number of cases against her amount to 100 years in prison. cyber libel, defamation, criminal defamation. That's what you do. When a journalist becomes a public voice and somebody whose opinion is heard of, then you try to discredit that voice. Then you try to drown that person, one, in cases. So I wake up, I'm dealing with my CA, my tax accountant, non-payment of advance tax. Have you ever heard of that before? Yeah, it deals with, I have to face that. Non-payment of advance tax. Drowning with lawyer in Bombay, lawyer in Delhi, now another Bombay in Sanatan, now another lawyer in Karnataka. By the end of the day, once you're sorted with this at 7 p.m. in the evening, you're like, you know what, let me just go and sleep now. Where do you do your reporting? Nowhere. So I think my reportage has suffered as a consequence of all the cases that I'm dealing with. And that's exactly what the government wants, to stop your journalism, to stop your voice. And which is why it's critical for me to keep speaking despite the pressure, to let them know, you are trying to silence me, I am not being silenced. And that's the least I can do for younger journalists in India who look up to our case and say, oh, if it can happen to them, it can happen to us also. Imagine the messaging that is going to the younger journalists, right? They're like, oh, she's suffering as a consequence of this, let us not even get there. Let us keep doing what is popular. So now journalists are now doing stuff that is popular, which might not get them in trouble, which might not get them in the eye of their publishers and the owners saying, oh, this journalist is trouble. This journalist is getting us in trouble. No, which is why, look at some of the best journalists right now who are operating in the public space. All of them are independent. Why are they independent? Why are they not hired? Do we ask that question? Why are some of the top journalists in India not being hired by big houses? Because they're scared. Because they're scared of the spine of these independent journalists. That if these journalists are employed by our news publications, we will have a case, the government will shut us down. That's the question we need to ask day in, day out.
Nowadays, we are actually seeing a lot of Hindu-Muslim debate at least on the mainstream media. Do you really feel that religion is a fundamental issue in this debate, or is this also part of just the propaganda or an eyewash?
See, it is what we are seeing in the media also reflects what you see on the ground, right? I live in a housing society where I'm the only Muslim in the housing society where I live in. I can tell you that it's a very upper middle class setup, and I have seen communalism the way I have in the last couple of years that I've never seen before. I've seen my neighbors write Facebook posts about Muslims taking over India, right? That's the power of fake news. That's the power of a narrative that is being spread. Today, for instance, I was just reading a headline at the Tata Institute of Social Science in Bombay, where students are trying to show the BBC documentary, and BJP leaders are saying Desh ke gaddaron ko goli maro salon ko again. Who are the gaddar in the new world order in India? Who are the gaddar? The Muslims. Because in the RSS scheme of things, Muslims and Shudras and Dalits and Christians were always the people who do not exist, who were not supposed to be a part of the India narrative, which is why for 220 million Muslims of India to be shown their place is the ultimate reason why Mr. Modi is in power. Like people say, you know, Mr. Modi came to power despite 2002. I say he came to power because of 2002. Because he told a larger audience that I could show them their place. This is exactly what is happening today. Why is a BBC documentary called a propaganda? Because, hey, what is he doing? What did he do that then that he's not doing today? He's doing the same thing. So what's new? People are right. What is new in that BBC documentary? Nothing new. We are seeing this every day in this country. Like, give me an example. I forget the name of this young techie in Pune who was killed, who was lynched by the mob. The first lynching of since Mr. Modi came to power. Yesterday, the court acquitted everybody. I dread the spin that the mainstream media will give that issue, that Hindus were made accused in that case. I see love jihad rallies going on in Maharashtra, love jihad rallies, as if development is done, as if everybody has a job, as if everybody has food, as if COVID never happened. How did Mr. Modi get through COVID criticism? By making it about, we are attacking a Hindu leader who is out to protect Hindus from Muslims. They want him out of the country, which is why they're out to get him. How does Mr. Modi get saved from all criticism of COVID or CAA or all the misgovernance? By just making him a leader under attack from the activists who want to throw him out. Mr. Modi's only claim to fame is his anti-Muslim politics, which is precisely why all that you see on your channels are the Hindu-Muslim issue, because one, let's face it, it gets you the TRPs. People watch it. When you make the Muslim the enemy, you get a big story. You get a market. Why is Why is Afzal hum sharminda hai, tere katil? I saw it yesterday on a TV channel. What was the necessity for that slogan to be on a television channel yesterday? Because that sells. Communalism sells. Apartheid of Muslims and Christians sells. There are attacks against Christians that are happening day in, day out. Why aren't we talking about it? People who conspired in the Graham Staines murder, have we forgotten who Graham Staines was, are now in the ruling party. So I think the country is reveling in this hate wave, and which is precisely why I keep saying there is no way Mr. Modi is going to lose 2024. In fact, if the country really has to worry, I will be very worried about this country, because now you see an attack on the judiciary. The government now wants its own in the collegium. If the judiciary is taken over, then there's nothing worth fighting for in this country.
We have discussed and criticized a lot about Indian media. At least we have discussed about the criticisms Indian media is facing. How do you see this Indian media system changing in the coming years? What are the ways Indian media can improve themselves?
I do not think the editors are going to change anytime soon. I don't think the publishers are going to change. They need to have their access to the government. See, all these media owners, what do they need? They need access to 7RCR. They need access to all their offices. They need access to ministers to make sure that they, coffee pe aa jaun kya? Wo access chahiye sabko. Everybody wants access. It ends up with access. Who suffers as a consequence? The younger journalists who are told you're not supposed to do this, because if you do this, then it cuts my access. If you do this, it brings in less profit. So I think my messaging is for the younger generation of journalists who the independent ones are doing an excellent job, I think. Whatever news we are getting, whether it was the Delhi riots or the CAA protest or the Shaheen Bagh, where was it coming from? It was coming from independent journalists who are excellent. I mean, these are like 21, 22-year-old journalists. You see them on the field with their cameras. Your smartphones has become them. Everybody has become a citizen journalist. You are sitting here. You have left a mainstream enterprise. You have started something. There are other platforms. There's Maktoob, there is News Minute, there is Scroll, there is Wire, there is Caravan, Article 14. I have great faith that till such time that these institutions exist, we will have some semblance of the media. Otherwise, it's a lost battle. But again, it's ours to reclaim it. Right? So I have great faith in this young generation of journalists. I do believe that we are leaving a legacy behind, which is not something we must take great pride in. We are leaving a terrible legacy for the young generation of journalists. But I really hope that they realize and they see the state capture and they do the right thing.
Talking about this, the way media is trying to sustain their access, does that also hamper this practice of investigative journalism? Because you started your career, if I'm not wrong, from Tehelka. You did a lot of reportage on the Gujarat riots, and perhaps I think one of your reports was also instrumental in convicting Amit Shah in one of the cases. So do you think that practice of investigative reportage is dying these days?
I have not seen a great work of investigative journalism in a long time from India, which I feel like it's really made me, sit up and take notice. I think it's not dying, but I feel like there are enough journalists who want to do investigative journalism. But investigative journalism needs time and commitment from a publication. In an age where everybody is literally living in Twitter journalism, when everybody wants your report to be out in 30 minutes, investigative journalism needs a lot of time and patience and perseverance. People are not ready for it. Second, what kind of investigative journalism? The kind of investigative journalism we see on television today is based on the government diktats, what the government decides for you to do. So I think it's not dying. There are still journalists who can do much better than even I or anybody else did. They have the potential to do as better journalism. It's exhausting and it's actually depressing to not see that level of journalism I don't see what is investigative journalism in the present day and age. I don't see a great investigative report, but I feel like I am working with another editor on this investigation that we have been working on for the last 3 years, right? One of the reasons there have been hiccups is, of course, that we do not have access to the people that we used to have earlier. There are too many hiccups in investigative journalism. The sources who used to talk to us earlier are hesitant to talk because they're like, what if we say this? They fear the worst. And who will publish this investigation? Supposing tomorrow I have an investigation which has been with me for 3 years, who will publish those investigations? At the end of the day, it will be those niche outlets which have the reach of like 1,000 people in the echo chamber. Will the mainstream media publish it? No. Like when Gujarat Files released, some well-meaning people said, "Where are the tapes?" And I'm like, "Can I bring it to you, please? Will you publish it tomorrow morning?" So everybody loves to ask those questions, right? So I feel like it's not dying. People still have that art of doing investigative journalism. They have the jazba, they have the courage to do it. It's just that they don't have somebody to take their hand and walk them through saying, we will publish this. We will put in the time and effort and the resources that investigative journalism requires. So I think that is missing.
So ma'am, thank you so much for speaking to the Fourth. It was a real great pleasure having you here in Trivandrum speaking to the Fourth. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And all the best to the Fourth for doing what others are not doing yet. So great stuff and all the very best.
Thank you so much, ma'am.